We're in for a wild night.
Cosmo. Welcome to Born to be Cosmo, a one-off Marvel Snap podcast, trying to make up for the fact that there was no Born to be Wild last night. I am joined as always by my co-host Nate Wolfe, insofar as that this is the first and only time he will be my co-host on this podcast. How are you, Nate?
I'm great. I'm doing great. Yeah, Merry Christmas to everybody, to those who celebrate, and happy holidays and happy Saturday to everybody who doesn't celebrate. But it's great to be here, and my plans got a little bit derailed, but it allowed me to be here this evening to hang out with some friends. So very happy to chat about one of my other favorite games and hang out with a couple of my favorite people. So thanks for the call.
Yeah, no problem. This is a bit last minute for those that are tuning in, but to ensure that this is not a shambolic catastrophe and to legitimize this the best that I can, we have on a special guest whom I believe to be one of the premier Snap content creators, ZombiesGoNomNom. Zombies, thank you for being here. How are you doing this evening, this fine Christmas evening?
Good. Excited to get back in the podcast lane a little bit for this one-off as try and figure out bringing back our show sometime in the new year, maybe focused around Snap and other card games and whatnot. So it'll be fun. I love talking about the game, and I think it'll be a good time.
So that was the fighting pit. Do you think you're going to go through a little bit of a rebranding, a name change, or is that kind of still being talked through?
I think we're gonna keep it. I think if I've learned anything about like quote unquote, brand name type of stuff, rebrands are really like it's a lot of risk, and if you don't do it right, very little reward. Actually, like it'll probably hurt you. So I think it's just kind of general enough of a term where I think we can kind of stick with it and just make it clear we have like kind of splitting it up into seasons, right? Like hopping aboard the battle pass style that gaming has become, and we're season 2. We're not doing mercenaries anymore.
I like it. You know what though? When we upload stuff to Anchor or iTunes, like it asks you what season and what episode number. You just say, all right, season 2, episode 1.
Yeah.
And we can always talk later if you feel like tweaking your logo a little bit to be more generic and less mercenaries.
True. Yeah, I would love to do that because I have not had any time to put really much thought and effort into it yet because I've been doing the stream every day for a month thing for Snap, so it's been going. It is harder than I thought it would be to do that, but we're almost there. It's Christmas Eve. Made it 24 days. We got like a week to go. I think I started it early unintentionally because I was just enjoying streaming the game, so I think I actually have been doing it daily for like a month, but we still got a week left in December.
Hey, you're an inspiration, man. I'm always super impressed when there's somebody who can do content creation as like a full-time gig, and it's super impressive. And your content is great.
It's
too.
hard.
You've been having good luck with the YouTube Shorts, right?
Yeah, so I think some other people are finally picking up on that too. So I did a bunch of shorts on some on the main channel, some on put up a side channel for like VODs and everything, all the unedited stuff. And the shorts did really well. Like I actually couldn't believe how well the shorts were doing.
I'll tell you why, dude. It's because everyone has the attention span of a goldfish, and myself
It's
included.
true.
And so watching something for 2 minutes versus watching something, I'm intimidated when I jump on a show or a podcast and it's an hour and a half, 2 hours or whatever, and it's like, oh, this is a commitment versus I got a couple minutes.
Instant gratification. And can you like fit it into your schedule? And that's also like I think another interesting aspect, and I mean I don't have any statistics or anything to back this up, but if I were to take a wager here, the crowd we're normally used to seeing for like Hearthstone stuff, I feel like it's kind of grown with the game, and like we joke around like children's card game, right? But like I don't think there are actually that many children playing the card game, maybe especially not as many as there were in say like when it came out. Like I was literally a child when Hearthstone came out. I was in high school and I remember when it came out. But I feel like there's less of that now, and I feel like the player base has grown with the game. Whereas I think Snap, with utilizing not only the IP that's really like popular and culturally relevant, but the speed of the game and talking about that like attention spanness, you're going to grab so many people of the younger generation who don't have time to sit through a 40-minute Control Warrior mirror or even like a 10-minute game, like to not exaggerate, like even like a 5 to 10 minute game that might be a tall ask for some people, and when I can play a game in like 2 or 3 minutes or something, like
That is the
totally
beauty of
different.
Snap. I think it's got its ups and downs, I think, but that is part of the beauty and the charm of it is the game times are so short. It's great, and it's okay to play like I think with the way that their missions reset every X number of hours. Like I can jump in even and play for a little bit, finish off some daily quests or missions or whatever, and then be done with it. And then cool, like I'm gonna have more missions in a few hours. Like if I want to play more, I'll jump in then so I can get some more, uh, you know, road bucks or whatever they're called. So,
Yeah.
They did a really good
um,
job scaling it. Like you can do your dailies and maybe invest 10 minutes to kind of clear that out so that you can try and stay on the treadmill. Whereas you could also go really hard and do like a 5 hour stream, like you've done a couple times this month during the Streamathon Zombies. Like you could play the game for that many hours, so it really scales nicely. Um, but don't mean to cap the conversation, but just want to take care of one small housekeeping item. Um, for those that are here for Born to Be Wild, fear not. The plan is to return on the 30th with regularly scheduled Born to Be Wild Wild Hearthstone content. So this is just a one-off. We thought it would be fun. So stay tuned for regularly scheduled programming.
if
Uh,
it's really great, we could always like make it a 2-off.
all right. Well, we'll see. Maybe some higher tier production values than what I've put forth, but we'll evaluate. We'll see how that
I
works out.
I know with this graphic designer that like look at this logo that we've got on the screen. It's amazing. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, I love it.
Your graphic designer is probably looking at this. Like, what did he do?
It's great.
Cosmo, kind of an interesting factoid. I don't know where it ranks today. We can check on SnapFan, but it was like the second or third most played card in the entirety of the game.
Wow.
So while everyone's like talking about Leech and Leader, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit later, we talk about the meta. Quietly, people are just slamming doggos down and ruining people's evenings. But to go back to the earlier point about fast games, I have no actual affinity towards the Marvel universe. I joke that I've seen 2 Marvel films, and one of them I learned wasn't even technically a Marvel film, the original Spider-Man from 2002, and Black
It's
Panther.
in the Sony, yeah.
Yeah, it was the Sony one. And I started playing it because someone suggested, Blue, you might enjoy the cadence, the speed of the games. And for those that have heard me talk about Hearthstone, we all know how much I love my control mirrors, insofar as that I do not. So I really like the fast game time is really something that I enjoy, and even though I don't dislike it. I don't have any special affection for it. I think the art, the way that the package is put together is really, really nicely done as well. What's interesting is that, so kind of just to segue into our first discussion point, one of the things that really surprised me about Marvel Snap is how much of a Hearthstone connection there was. I think principally there were 2 types of people that gravitated towards the game upon release, right? There was the people that were excited for a Snap game that, for a Marvel game that wasn't going to suck. Apparently some of the other ones, mobile ones, haven't been so great.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of bad Marvel games.
Especially mobile, I'm pretty sure. I think I mean, I don't know, some people probably like them, but I've not heard the greatest things about some of the other mobile Marvel games.
a lot of people who play Hearthstone kind of dipped their toes into it. A few during the beta, but especially upon release, and that surprised me. I mean, there's the Ben Brode connection, obviously. Maybe I underestimated how much of a pull that was, but why do you guys think that there's such a crossover appeal? Like, not not everyone who plays Hearthstone plays Magic the Gathering or Runeterra, and of course not everyone that plays Hearthstone plays Snap. But I feel like there's a little bit more of an overlap than maybe exists elsewhere.
It's not just Ben Brode though. It was like the whole. So when Blizzard had this whole exodus of the Hearthstone team, right? Because Ben Brode left and Yan Wu left and Molly Ayala left and the dev whose name I always forget that just posted on Twitter those decks.
Tien.
And like
Yeah.
all joined Second Dinner to make this mystery game, and we're like, oh, I'm gonna keep my eye on this because these are all people who have made this product that I love, and so I'm curious to see what it is. And so then they reveal it's going to be a Marvel game, and I'm like, I've read comic books since I was a little kid. It's been a while. I don't have the extra money anymore because I spent it all on Hearthstone. But I'm familiar with the stories. I've watched all the Marvel movies. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. They're making a TCG with Marvel characters by the Hearthstone people? I'm down. And the cadence of it is so fast, and at least there's a little bit of like a bait and switch, I think, with the cadence of the collection level. As somebody who's primarily like free to play minus the monthly battle passes, like you get your pool 1 and pool 2 collection like super quick, and so you can start playing games competitively like right away, and they're so fast that it's like, oh, this is great. And as somebody who like, okay, this attention span thing or TikTok videos or YouTube shorts or whatever, the idea of playing like super fast games, and you don't really need to invest a lot of time, you don't need to invest a lot of money, and then they're really fun. And I think where they really learned or really did a great job is it's so shiny and flashy and fun. The music is cool. The cards have all these fun special effects. When I play my Nightcrawler, he poofs, or when I play my Sentinel, like the rocket boots, light up. And when I play Ant-Man, he like sometimes he shrinks and sometimes he grows. And like they've put so much finesse into some of the special effects and stuff, the sound effects, the music. I always love that. Oh, snap. And like, it's just fun. I've been having a great time with it. I have some complaints, but like overall, it's pretty great.
Oh, we'll get to those. No product is perfect, but I've been dabbling in a lot of digital card games over the last few months. I've been on and off with Runeterra for almost 2 years now. I got pretty into Magic the Gathering Arena over the summer, and then Snap upon release, and it's the only one other than Hearthstone that's really kind of kept me.
I'm glad you joined because I got in the beta and I was like, you got to try this. It's so fun. You got to try this. And it was like, but it was so inaccessible. You had to have either use the emulator, which I did, or be on an Android device, which I didn't have.
Me neither.
And
yeah, I was in that boat too. I remember I was streaming like Mercenaries that was my focus at the time, but like the game, I was having a lot of fun with the game, even though I was really bad at it in the beta. But I wanted to play it not at my computer because I'd like stream or work on videos or do a bunch of stuff for like many hours, and I didn't want to just go from that into continuing to sit in front of the same desk trying to play this game. Like I would have much preferred to like go play it on a phone or a tablet or whatever. And so I was really annoyed that you couldn't get it on I think Europe got iOS beta, but like America didn't. It was weird. Like
they had it in the Philippines.
I know that because that's how I eventually got it on my phone. Was you just make an Apple account in the Philippines, and then you can download it, and
I remember
it works fine.
Binks was like, yeah, all you gotta do is get a Filipino account. And I'm like, I am not going to bother doing that. And there were some bumps in the beta that kind of really. I was pretty turned off by that because I signed up for it and I never got a reply back, and I was kind of a bit disappointed. And then there was a lot of things that happened that generated noise, and then the game came out. and everyone was trying it out, and I wasn't even going to try it. And then I had to go to the doctor downtown. I don't drive because of my bad eyes, and I was just on the train, and I just started playing it on the train, and I was so impressed how well it played on a mobile device. And I didn't feel that like, oh God, am I at my stop? What am I going to do? I'm going to have to walk and like play the game. So it really was good on mobile, and it just kind of grabbed me. Um, I think that the PC client is where I play it the most, just because I tend to be at home, and I'm very much looking forward to the updated PC client. But yeah, the game just, even with those deficiencies, plays well, and I think that the release kind of removed those barriers, and a lot of the fears that I think people had that you'll be super far behind were somewhat abated by the changes they made at launch, and although frankly being behind is still kind of a thing, but it is somewhat mitigated. We'll relegate that to the complaints department, but certainly the crossover appeal is there, and it's not just in the super engaged people either. So there are some individuals whom I know outside of the digital internet world that stopped playing Hearthstone a few years ago, but picked up Snap and are kind of working through it casually. So certainly it seems to have brought back a demographic that kind of fell off from Hearthstone, for a variety of reasons. It got more challenging to keep up with as there were more releases, which is not a bad thing for an engaged audience. The game got more complex over the years. You saw that when you've played Hearthstone Classic. Like, you're like, huh, I can't play this.
Yeah,
It's
very
like,
different game.
yeah. So, but there's something to be said about simplicity, and that is the other thing I just want to mention as well. One of the reasons I've stuck with it is because I can see it. I know that kind of sounds like a silly thing, but the cards are very simple. It's the name, two numbers, and a big photo. And from an accessibility perspective, it's very easy on the eyes. Like, I don't have to strain them. I don't have to, I'm able to make out the game pretty well. There's some things that I struggle with a little bit, but generally from an accessibility perspective, it's very easy to play. And there's no like, there's no miracle turns, because the way that the game works with simultaneous turns, you're playing one, maybe at most three cards. So it's really easy to interact with. It's just easy to engage with the game, and yeah, there's another reason why I've stuck with it, because Pokemon TCG is a game that I enjoy, but I cannot see the game, therefore I cannot play it.
That
Yeah.
UI did not look good the last time. I remember you showing me that, and I was like, I have fairly decent eyesight, and I could not. It just wasn't. You could tell that the UI was not designed in an overly intuitive way, and I think Snap is the opposite of that. It's like, I think one of the big things about not only just like the name brand of Ben Brode, which I do think does carry a lot of impact, because so many early Hearthstone people just, there's that big association there, because
Yeah.
like, and Ben even says it himself. Like, I watched him in a number of like, they just won the mobile game of the year, so he's been doing all these different interviews and stuff, and it's been really neat to see him talk about all this stuff. And one of the things he brings up is how, like, in his opinion, he gets so much more credit than like he thinks he deserves on Hearthstone, because he's someone who likes putting himself out there, and he's not afraid to be the guy in front of the camera. And so that was a huge thing. I mean, we've all played Hearthstone for a very long time, and I remember the Broad years. And even though, if like I look objectively at the game, there were things that were worse then that got better over time, even as he left. Like, I still associate him with a lot of those like good memories of the game, because like he was effectively just, he became like the face of the game.
Yeah.
And now that he and a bunch of these other employees who worked on the game, I think they all understand one of the things that made Hearthstone so revolutionary when it came out was it was this like kind of simple, easy to grasp game that was very visually appealing, and you could kind of get an idea of what's going on with the game by looking at it. Now, there were intricacies, right? Like, some things might not be super clear just looking at the board, but more or less, if you're not playing the game, you could look at it and say, oh, they have this much health. These things can hit them for damage. Like it's relatively simplistic, and I think that's why it was so people were so receptive to viewing it, because the only competition at the time was a Magic the Gathering program from the 90s that did not have really as clean
Still going.
UI.
Magic the Gathering Online. So, I think for all of its intuitiveness, in terms of gameplay, in terms of how mobile friendly it is, but how well it translates to extended sessions, there are some things about it that are unintuitive. And so if I may direct the conversation towards that a little bit, want to focus a little bit about the economy, the game's economy. Now, before you start jumping to it's pay to win, it's free to pay friendly, I think that those are tropes and arguments best saved for Reddit. What I've realized with the economy is how difficult it is to just kind of understand what's going on. Now, this same person whom I'm referring to, who picked up the game casually, who dropped Hearthstone around the time of Knights of the Frozen Throne, they didn't understand that you progressed your collection level by upgrading the cosmetics of your cards in your collection. They did not understand that using the fast boost upgrade in the store was a bit of a trap. They didn't understand the battle pass. What would they get out of it? What was, superfluous? And so I think that this is something that perhaps they may need to do a little bit better on. And this guy, just to put it in perspective, is right on the cusp of Pool 3 and still didn't have a grasp of the fundamentals. That's a big problem. I think the other thing is, the other conversation is, well, if you do understand the system fundamentally, where do you invest in? Whether it's if you're free to play, where do you invest your in-game resources? If you want to put some money into the game, what's the best way to do it? Do you buy the bundles? Do you buy the battle pass? Do you buy gold? So there's a lot going on there, and so then we'll get into the specifics of what we think one should do. But it's a very complex system baseline.
Yeah, I still don't know some of the things. Like, now that I'm in Pool 3 into 4, like after the collector's cash boxes, like. It was so great getting one each time you leveled up or whatever, and now there's a bunch of things in between, and you're not guaranteed a new card anymore. You get some random thing, and it's always so depressing when you open up I got 2 titles that were terrible, and I was like, really? I went through all of this to get this collector's cash, and it's not even a crappy variant. It's a title that says I'm an embarrassment to my family. Like, get out of here.
Well, Nate, if the shoe fits. So I'm looking at the shop right now. So why don't we go through the shop top to bottom, and we can kind of talk what our perspective on what's worth and what isn't. So the very first thing that appears in the shop is what I have on screen here. 2 bundles for sale. That's the first thing you see at the very top. The order changes depending on, I don't know what. Earlier it was showing Winter Wonderland on top. I opened the game client and now it's showing Line in the Sand on top. Regardless, you can see I purchased the Winter Wonderland bundle. That was selling for, was it 6,000 gold or 5,000 gold? I don't recall. I think it was 6,000.
I think it was 6. Pretty sure it was 6.
And
it's 6,000. I have not bought it.
You got the Line in the Sand bundle, which is actually selling for money. It's $20 US, or as you can see in Canada, $27.99. Interesting sidebar. Snap doesn't have regional pricing. So basically, which is usually very common for Canadian customers, we always get the short end of it. But for example, our good friend Tom Carter, who's from Argentina, that plays Hearthstone, they have region-based pricing for countries that aren't in North America. Snap doesn't have that, so they're gonna still pay whatever the equivalent is of their currency. converted to US. So I think in Brazil it's like 99 I don't know what their currency is called. Just kind of revealing my ignorance. But I saw someone like with a screenshot up saying like it's like $99 for them, the line in the sand bundle. So that's a bit tough. But that aside, um, you know, bundles. So let's start with Winter Wonderland. Buy or not buy? Did I do a bad or did I do a not so bad by purchasing it?
So, like, I think the big thing is, uh, they're gonna be like, I think like few different groups of players, right?
Hmm.
Like, you're gonna have the people that treat this as a purely free to play game, where they aren't interested in spending any money on it. Then you're going to have the people who buy the pass, kind of like Nate here, who just they'll buy the pass, they'll get the new card and all the little other stuff that comes with it, but and that's like monthly, but they're not interested in spending more on the game, whether it be bundles, whether it be cosmetics, like whatever. And then you're going to have people in like the next category who they're going to be people who buy some of them, and then they're going to be, you know, the handful of whales that buy pretty much everything that pops up.
So do you think that it's worth priority? So if you're only going to buy one thing, you're like Nate, you've got a limited budget because you're invested in other games and activities, and you know you don't want to spend an arm and a leg. You can buy one thing. Do you hold off for these bundles or do you go with the battle pass if it was a
Uh,
binary?
So if you had to pick one thing, I think it's smarter just to get the pass, and the reason for that is because of the pool system and how pass cards rotate and all that. And that's another thing that I don't think the game really does a great job
They
explaining.
don't
Like the
tell
game,
you.
they don't tell
Yeah.
you what a pool or a series is, their terminology.
So it is a pool. Maybe we should kind of take it a step back for those who might be listening to this that are kind of
Mhm.
looking from the outside in, maybe wanting to dive in but are intimidated by the system. So what's the pool system?
So the pools are you progress your collection by leveling up your collection level. As you level up, you get cards. Now, depending what level you are, that kind of determines what cards you have access to. Now, you might get them in kind of a random order, but it's not like you could get any single card in the game. You're limited between, I think pool 1 is like 20-ish or 30 cards, somewhere around there off the top of my head. And then pool 2 is the same. So once you get to a certain level, you will have gotten all the cards in this first group, and then you will start getting cards in the next group. And there are a few different groups. There are mainly three, but recently they added two more groups. They added of four and a five. And they also changed how the season pass and card rotation work. Because in the beta, if you didn't get a card in the season pass, it would rotate essentially 2 months after it first went on sale. It would just go into the third pool, which was the final one at the time, and you could just open it. So if you didn't buy it, you could still get the card for free. It would just be roughly 2 months right after its release. So people were like, you know, there were some complaints about it at the time, but it wasn't like a seriously contested thing. People just were kind of like, all right, you know, at least we can still get it. Now, with the addition of Pool 4 and Pool 5, those pools are rarer, and you can get those cards both if you're completing other pools or if you are finished with the third pool. But it really, you can get them at any time, but the rarity is much, much higher.
Well, it's funny, Nate. You're kind of making the money sign there, but like you could throw as much money as the game will allow you to throw at it, and it's not even going
And
to
you,
be a guarantee that you'll get that. So it truly
well,
is. I mean, it's
there's definitely the random factor, but okay, so here's the other piece, right? So they recently, what is it, a few weeks back, instituted this collectors tokens, and now there's a token shop that appears at the bottom of the shop each day, and different cards rotate through. One card rotates through every 8 hours or whatever it is, and you can pin the card, which is neat. So if it's a card that you've been hunting for and you want it, you pin it, and it'll stay as long as you want until you get enough collector tokens to buy it, or you decide to unpin it, which has been cool. And they gifted us a number of tokens. Different people got different amounts based on your collection. And so I was missing a bunch of Series 3 cards, and they were 1,000 tokens each, and they gave me 6,000 tokens. And I was like, oh, rad, okay. And so I was able to get a bunch of the cards that I wanted. But what I didn't realize is that getting the tokens, like, they're few and far between, and you get 100 at a time or less. And the Series 3 cards are 1,000, but after that, it's like, oh my God, if you didn't get the season pass and you want Black Panther,
Yep.
and he shows up, like, it costs 6,000 tokens. Are you joking me? Like, all right, it's gonna take me as a free to play player, it's gonna take me a year to get that many. Like, that's insane. And and even then it's random. So it can be cost prohibitive. And so if you're looking at it from a money perspective, like, if I can spend $10 on the season pass and I'm gonna get this card that not only will it be played usually in the current meta or whatever, but if then it's going to rotate and be in one of the later pools, and if I'm going to use collector's tokens to get it, it's going to cost me 6,000. Like, I'd rather spend the $5-10 or whatever it is on the season pass to get it. And so I did it with Wave, I did it with Miles Morales, I did it with Silver Surfer this month, and like, it's cool. I'm happy I did it, and that's not a big investment. Early on, I kind of liked a lot of people. It's either you love them or hate them, right? I like the pixel variants. I struggle because I'm like a collector in Hearthstone. Like, I have everything. I've totally whaled out and I have it all. And in Snap, like, that is my brain wants to do that. And I was like, well, okay, I don't need all of these variants, but like, what if I get all the pixel ones? And then I realized, like, 700 gold, like, that's $10 a day or $10 per variant. And those are the cheap ones. And so if you want everything, it is going to cost you an arm and a leg. They're super cool. I think the artwork is awesome.
So to walk it back, I think that the key takeaway here is the card that you get in the Battle Pass is desirable. It's not like the Hearthstone Battle Pass, and I'm not criticizing the Hearthstone Battle Pass. It's very different. That's
they give you mercenaries.
Yeah, that's once an expansion cycle. The Battle Pass for Snap is monthly. A season in Snap is 1 month, give or take. You get a really powerful card. So I started at release. So the 3 cards that have been on offer since I started was Miles Morales. Not that good of a card, actually. It's reasonable, but wasn't too exciting.
Kind of just okay. Yeah. Not super. It didn't change the game significantly. It's not a bad card. So he's playing, a few decks, but like it didn't drastically impact the game to the point where if you didn't have Miles Morales, you were really missing out.
But then the next one was Black Panther, which is a very good card in some very specific archetypes, and had a cool factor as well. I'm not biased at all by that being the only Marvel film I ever saw. And I enjoyed. I'd like to see others. I mean, it's just kind of something I got to do. But this month, my 3rd month, Silver Surfer, that is one of the best cards in the game.
It's crazy.
And supports a variety of archetypes. And is, I dare say, you're very desirable to have. Next month, now I can only predict, but I've been talking this one up ever since it got leaked in the data mine. Zabu? How's it?
Zabu the tiger?
Zabu?
I don't know.
Wow.
It's Khazar's tiger, right?
Zabu gonna be a card that I think that people are gonna want to have.
What does it do? I don't know. I know who the character is, but I don't know what it does.
It's a 3. It's a 3 energy, 2 power, ongoing. Your 4 cost cards cost 2 less, but not less than 1.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So your turn 4, you can play 2 4s. Now, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but there are some very desirable 4-drops that makes that a very compelling build-around strategy. I don't know what that strategy is going to be. All I know is that, any card, I've always said this in Hearthstone and in any card game, if it cheats resources, you probably want to pay attention to it. I think Zabu's going to be one you're going to want to pay attention to. So I think you want to, if you're going to spend anything on the game, the Battle Pass is probably your best bet. You get a lot of other extras as well over the month. And it kind of dips into some of the areas that are some of the more expensive places, such as the different variants or skins for cards, which are phenomenal in this game. You're looking at 2 of them on the screen right now, one for Spider-Man, one for Sandman, and actually one for Sunspot 3. All wonderful pieces of art. So it kind of gives you a little bit of that. It gives you some resources that you can use. So I think the Battle Pass is a good place to be. The next thing that you probably want to consider is what are you going to do with all the gold you accumulate from your Battle Pass and just what you get from the game.
And I would like to know the answer to that because I've been saving it up and I'll get like a skin every once in a while, but it seems like
that is what you should not do. I totally understand. I totally understand why you want to spend your money on the variants, but that is the trap. You shouldn't do that. What you should do with your gold, and Zombies, correct me if I'm wrong, originally the smart thing to do was to buy additional quests for 120 apiece. So in your quest log,
you can do that.
Yeah, in your quest log.
Can do that.
See, there you go. This is what I'm saying. The systems are not intuitive, so you can purchase additional.
Use a better tutorial for some of this. Yeah.
Yeah. So you know where your quests where you have a maximum of 6, you can press the 120 and get 2 more. But before you start pressing that button, Nate, the bundles that sell for gold are probably better than that if you have the discipline to save that much gold. So the Sunspot bundle for 6,000 gold is the best place to spend your gold. But like, I'll be honest with you, and I'll be the first one to admit it, I wouldn't have the discipline. So if you don't have the discipline, then the reroll button's your best bet because you'll get extra credits and reward track experience, and you can use that to upgrade your collection level and get more cards. Else, the bundle, the gold bundle.
Really what I've been trying to do, like, I want the cards more than anything else, and so in order to do that, you got to upgrade your existing cards to progress on the reward or the collector's reward track cache, whatever it's called, and so it's like I feed off of those daily quests. I make sure I do them every day and upgrade my cards when I can to progress. And
that's how people really shot up the CL level, because they used to have a limit in place too where you can only press that button 3 times a day. So you only could spend a max of 360. Did I do the math on that right? 120 times 3? Yeah, I think so. But they changed it. Now you can press it more often. They kind of...
It's how they changed it. It's kind of interesting. They didn't actually make it more, but now it's stockpiles if you haven't used it another day that week. So basically it tracks like your weekly. And let's say on day 1 I don't re-roll anything. Then the next day I can re-roll for both the new day and what I could have done the other day. But I believe it cycles weekly. So they didn't actually make it... They just made it so...
They capped it per week instead of per day.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. They just changed... A very slight change.
Gold's a precious resource, though. So when you start pressing that button more than 3 times, I don't think many people had the resource to... see how deep the the well was on that. So that's interesting information.
Most probably don't, but it's good to know. And the other thing, the big thing about, like, aside from the pass with the bundles, I think you've outlined it pretty well. The big thing and why it's probably better to save for the bundles than re-roll the quests is, yes, there's a little bit less immediate gratification there, but the bundles not only are, at least some of them, like the Wonderland one here, more cost effective for the credits. You're also getting the variant if you're into that, but more importantly, the tokens.
Yep.
And the token shop, the whole reason the token shop was added, which is, it came like a little bit over a month after the game released. And the biggest piece of feedback in the beta by far was we need some kind of agency towards collecting these cards because, it's between you start pool 3 at just under collection level 500, and you finish it, give or take, around 3,000. That takes a while. Even if you're paying money, even if you're not, it's going to take you time. It's not a system where you can just swipe the most OP card, the credit card, and just get access to it all and play the game. They're just like, no, like, and that is something that I think is going to continue to be like a kind of contested thing in the community, because because they don't use a pack system. They're kind of like paving their own way here, because if you look around, like any other card game that has even a semi popular following, they're all pulling from the same thing. Now, some might do it slightly differently than others. Like, Runeterra is known for being really free to play friendly with the resources, but they all have some kind of like pack system, right? And Snap's just like,
Runeterra doesn't, but anyways,
it doesn't. Is it just Dust?
It's just Dust.
It's been a while since I played Runeterra.
It's okay. I just, for those that there are a couple of Runeterra enjoys in here, so I don't want them like, no, that's not how. Like, there's no pack. They were the first to not have like a pack system.
Yeah. But, well, the point is anyway that it's just abnormal, and so they're trying to kind of pave their own way with this, and it's interesting to see because, like I said, the big piece of feedback in the beta was we need some kind of agency. Because let's say I'm a big fan of the card Death. I want to play with that card. Well, it's great, but you might also need a few other pieces to go with it. Now, luckily, some of those are available earlier on, so you don't have to worry about it. But what if I just don't have Death? In the beta, there was no way of getting that card sooner or later. You got it whenever it decided to show up. And that's not exactly ideal, especially if, and I think this was like the bigger problem, especially if you run into other people playing with it and they just happen to get it earlier than you. Like it's just so total luck, and they get it, and it's just like, oh man, so not only do they have the card that I really want around my level presumably, but they're also beating my ass with it, and I can't do anything to like speed up the progress of like, or there was no agency to it, and that's not a good thing in a deck building game.
You unlock them in random order, and they're not that quick to unlock, especially the later ones. Like,
well, that's the problem with Pool 3, right? Like, it slows down. I think the game's very front loaded. Like, it wants to keep you super engaged for those first two pools. Like, it's giving you cards really, really fast. But then I think they also acknowledge like the pace that they give you cards in the beginning, like there's no way they could keep that pace up and produce as many cards. Like, there'd be so many cards so quickly because it launched with a significantly lower amount of cards than other card games, right? But at the same time, it kind of feels like more in a way because there's no filler cards, right? There's really no I mean, there are some cards that are worse than others, but there's no Magma Rager, right? There's no card that is like strictly unplayable in like at least a constructed format, right?
There's a couple stinkers, but most of them are pretty good.
It's a depressive.
We're all part of the Helicarrier club here, so we all know about stinkers. They have improved it slightly. Binks in our chat called out that at least we don't have 96 collection levels per card hell anymore. There's a cooldown period now where when you're in pool 3, you're gonna get a card every 6, I believe it is, collector's caches.
I think it's 8. They do it in batches in 4, basically. So you're guaranteed, I think, a card in 4, but then it could take you another 4 to get one or something. I don't know off the top of my head.
It trips. So I think, so
they've improved it.
So you're going to spend cash, get the battle pass, try to save your gold for the bundles like the Winter Wonderland one, else reroll your quests. I think that the Line in the Sand bundle here is a good example of where not to spend your money if you're a value-conscious gamer. What you're buying, in essence, for these types of bundles are the art. And I mean, if you're watching this, there's a picture of Spider-Man and Sandman, and I'm struggling not to press that button. I'm probably gonna skip this one because there is another cosmetic bundle, and you're noticing a trend here. There's a lot of bundles where I'm probably gonna end up getting that towards New Year's. So just being conscious of time, I just want to kind of go through the rest of what's in the shop because there's more. So after the bundles, you have the daily offer for variants. They give you six choices of randomly selected of alternative card arts that you can purchase between 700 and 1200 gold. This is a lot of gold. The correct answer is when should you buy variants? The answer is never. Now, Zombies and I are guilty of buying a variant whenever one comes up that we like because we're not well, I'll speak for myself. Probably not the most responsible in that regard, but I think it's a testament to how desirable the art is. I've got two in my shop that I'm looking at right now that I'm struggling to not buy the buy button right away. I got the Chibi variant for Patriot, and I got this 1602 variant for Enchantress, which is just absolutely gorgeous. If you're value conscious, don't buy anything in the daily offer ever. Then you have the token shop. Oh, sorry. Nate, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I thought about it and I started to, and then it was like it comes down to like about $10 a pop, and it's like whoa,
yeah,
can't
and
do
it can be more. They have
up.
those super ones that are like 1200, and oh man, and they always make them really cool too. And it's
the
like
the
I know.
1602
I will say
Enchantress is a 1200 one, by the way.
My one complaint though, like if you go to Marvel Snap Zone, they have all of the alternate art, so you can check it out.
Mm-hmm.
And some of my favorite artists up there, they've got their collections, and you can check them out. But like, I would love to be able to make a full deck with the same artwork, and they just don't exist. I mean, maybe they'll come out over time. But like, say I want to make a 1602 deck, well, there's only like 4 or 5 1602 cards. So like, you just can't do, and there's no way to guarantee that those cards even work well together.
They've been creating more for whatever that's worth, but yeah,
they will. But
it depend on the theme generally. Like some of the themes are really like the pixel and the chibi. Some of those have like tons and tons. But then some of the other more specific themes, they only have a few of. Like I really like the nullified ones. I think those are super duper cool. But it's annoying because they, not to branch off too much, but with the token shop, they put like there's a special tier of a few of these skins they put in the token shop, which is intended for the most part progressing the collection and finding that specific card you want and all that stuff. But they put these special ones in there, and they're expensive. They're 5,000 tokens. Now the most expensive new cards are 6,000 tokens, and it baffles me because not only does it make that that experience of going to check and see what you got, and if it's a card you want, like, feel worse, because like not only is it not a card I don't want, it's like a cosmetic. Like I'd prefer if there's like, and I'm a cosmetic person, like I like the cosmetics, I'd probably buy it if they put it in the regular store, but the tokens are so valuable both as a player and as, for me, a content creator, that like I can't just like throw away that many tokens on getting a skin to look cool when I could put those tokens towards a new card that, due to the I'll say somewhat flawed current system of releasing new cards outside of the battle pass, like I can't afford to. That's not even like a remote possibility, and I think that's a shame, because like, you want people to buy the cosmetic, because these tokens, you can't buy these tokens. Like occasionally they'll be in a bundle and get them through leveling up, but like you can't buy them.
Correct.
So like it's not even that it's like they're putting like a super high objective price tag on it. It just seems silly to me. I stand by it. They would get more people to buy this if you just gave it its own little. They added a super variant section to the shop and charged it with gold. I bet you they would sell like at least 3 times, 5 times more of this. Like,
I'm sure they
people
will
just
eventually
aren't gonna buy it.
If they let you take the variants and pin the variants, that would go over really well, I think.
Agreed. I totally agree on that one, because sometimes, even though it's not value to buy the variants, it's not value in terms of progression, but like it might add a lot of value to how you're enjoying the game. If you have a favorite deck and you can make your favorite card and your favorite deck look really cool, you might enjoy playing the game more. And that's something that I think is kind of neat with the, not to get too much into it, but the split system and how you level up your cards. Like, I got the Sunspot we see in the bundle there. in black and white, and I think that looks so cool. Like I absolutely love that, and it's like kind of a rare thing, and it helped me like level up the game, and it's just interesting. They're really trying a unique thing with this, the way they've handled progression. And I think it's far from perfect, but I'm hopeful that as the game evolves and as like the community, especially the launch community, because the game got such a huge boost at launch, like it really did kind of explode. Because I saw, like, I played in the beta, and one of the things I was worried about was like, I think a lot of people were in the same boat that I was before I got into the beta, where it was like, oh, this game looks really cool, but I don't want to watch anything about it because it makes me want to play the game, and I can't play the game.
That was me.
Yeah, it's a very real feeling. Like, I do think the beta was handled. It's funny. I think they handled the beta like an actual beta, and nowadays in like modern gaming, beta
Early
kind of
access.
yeah, beta has really taken on a different term, more like preview. Most of the time when a company's saying, "Oh, join our beta," the game's usually pretty done, and this is just it's kind of like some hype, some publicity, some marketing. Snap's beta was like an actual beta. Like, it was quite a pretty long beta. Like, what, it started in May or so, and they launched in October. It was a pretty long beta, and they made some very significant changes to the game that you just don't see many games do that anymore. Like, so I think there was some weird like, just people have been so conditioned for beta to mean, oh, I can just get in and try the game. And no, like, this, they treat it like how betas like used to be treated, which
I was happy that we got to keep our cards though.
Yeah, no, me too.
Well, they also had real money purchases in the beta, so they kind of had no choice but to let people keep their cards, right?
True.
Well, not necessarily. Magic the Gathering Arena did not let you keep the cards, but it refunded you all the currency to your main account. When it got out of beta. So
interesting.
I think it gave you like a bonus or two, but like it basically was like, but they were very clear about that from the beginning.
Right.
Like you said, any money you spend here, all this is going to be refunded, but you'll get it when the game fully launches. But it's very interesting. Like, and I don't think it's like a bad thing they did it the way they did it. It's just interesting because the industry has changed so much in the last like decade, where beta has kind of like, because now beta gets thrown around like so often. I think it's kind of lost like, the meaning of what a beta was or is.
I think Mercenaries is still in beta.
Yeah.
Is it? No. Well, I mean, it's.
Well, they
beta.
never gave it the beta tag because then you're not going to sell things as much, right? Like, that's just the way I see it. Like, why would you tell people your product is unfinished unless like you're spinning that to your like advantage, right? Like, oh, early access or whatever. But the whole point of bringing up the beta thing was like, I think they learned a lot in the beta, and they treated it as a real beta where like, don't get me wrong, it's not like they fixed or changed everything people had complaints about entirely, but they did use it as a period to like test things out, kind of get a general sentiment for the game and listen and change off of feedback, which is good because and probably don't have time to like fully dive into it, but this is something I plan on diving into on the YouTube soon.
We are going down a rabbit hole.
I know. The Nexus events that I'm sure somebody, if you heard anything about Snap in the beta, you probably heard this term at least once, because it was a huge thing. And the TLDR of it was they were trying to decide how to release new cards that weren't in the past, and they decided on this mechanic that was very gotcha and pay to win, and people, myself included, got really mad about it. Because we love the game, we think they have a great gameplay here, and we don't want to see it like ruined with a terrible gotcha element when there doesn't need to be one. And that was actually what made me stop playing the game in the beta, was because like I was just loving the game so much, even with like the few flaws I felt. And then that happened, I was just like, I was so put off by it that even when they totally reversed it, And I mean, they handled it about as best as you could, where they reversed their decision, they refunded everybody, they gave people something as a bonus. Like they pretty much did better than I honestly expected them to do in terms of walking it back and receiving the feedback. Um, but it was just it left such a sour taste in my mouth that like I stayed away probably from that point until like a week or two before launch. And even though I really liked the game, because like I was weary, you know, and it kind of makes me think of a little bit. It wasn't the exact same, but like when a game does something like that and then they walk it back, you're kind of aware like, are they gonna try and sneak this in somewhere else? Like obviously time and resources were put into this and thought it was gonna work. And it's interesting because now that we're seeing how now, as of like a few weeks ago, they have started implementing cards into the game outside of the pass, and it's nowhere near as bad of a system as the one in the beta was. But I think pretty much everybody in the community, whether you're high or low or medium on the game, kind of agrees that there's still work to be done there because it doesn't seem like a very intuitive system for the players. And I think we're going to see that a lot. Like most of the launch players, like you can kind of math it out. Obviously, it'll be different if you put a bunch of money into the game and try to speed it up a little. But I think generally it was like 4 or 5, maybe 6 months free to play would get you the full Pool 3 collection and everything before it. So like there's going to be a point, and I think we're going to see that point. So it launched in October. So we're probably not going to see it until like earlier next year. But I think there's going to be this point where people get through Pool 3.
Yeah.
And there won't be a big enough backlog of these new cards having entered the game to where they are as easily available. And I think that is going to cause a problem. And because people already like aren't thrilled on the pacing of Pool 3, and the Pool 4 and Pool 5 are so much rarer. Now there is a way they can fix this, and if they make, you know, cards rotating down the pools, which they said they have plans to do, if they do that in a timely way, then it might not be terrible, because these sought after cards, like if they did it like how they did the original Battle Pass, where they do it a month or 2 months later, if it moves down, well, you cut the price of the card in half, and when it goes down to Pool 3, you'll basically get it within 4 boxes. So it's like you're guaranteed to get it, you're just getting it later, which isn't, I think, worst thing in the world. The problem is right now we just don't know. We don't have a time frame on how long it takes a card to move from that 5 to 4 and 4 to 3. We know it's going to happen, and I think Brody even said they're going to reach a point where they're putting out cards, where they're rotating cards as fast as they're moving them down. And then I think if you're doing that, it might not really be that big of an issue, because you don't get to this point. Like I'm at the point right now, I was a beta player, didn't finish my collection in beta, and then I finished it, I don't know, like a month into release or so, something like that. And now with I've gotten a few Pool 4 cards, and I've been really lucky with the Pool 5 stuff, so not even my personal experience has been bad. But the odds of it, and seeing how long it can take for people to get these new cards is crazy. Like when someone who is max spending on the game, let's say that averages to like $33, right? I'm just doing simple math. If it's like 100 over 3 days, it might not be exact, but it's pretty close. If you're max spending on this, like I saw someone who did that, and they were max spending every day since the patch hit. And I think it took them a month to get a random Pool 5 card. And that's crazy if you're pumping in literally hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
Now, did they get tokens, and were they able to buy some Pool 5 cards in the little token shop too? Yes. It's not like they only got the one card, but like, sheesh, like it's a little, that kind of scares people away when the new cards are so hard to acquire. And so I think it's really going to matter a lot how they decide to rotate cards down. Now, they did say not all cards are going to rotate out of Pool 5. I imagine they're going to keep a few of the very iconic, like super legendary status characters in there. Like, I would not be surprised if Galactus and Thanos don't make their way out of there.
Well, but
it
this is the
just-
thing, right? So the question that I inevitably get asked all the time is, what do I spend my tokens on? I can buy 6 pool 3 cards for 6,000 tokens, or I can buy 1 pool 5 card. So if you go by a purely value-based approach, you'll say, well, you're going to get the pool 3 cards more quickly if you're patient because of the pity timer. You should invest in a pool 5 card. But what if you're wrong, zombies? I take my 6,000 credits and I buy Thanos, and then it's dropped down to pool 4. We're still pool 3.
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions there. So to those who are wondering what to do with my tokens, you gave me the best advice. Buy a couple pool 3 cards when you're early into pool 3 so you can get a couple of playable decks. You'll have a pretty good idea which cards you'll want. Ben from work in our chat, he's a competitive guy. He wants a card called Leader. Probably a good investment if it appears in his shop. I wanted to play a deck called Lockjaw Discard. I bought Lockjaw and Colleen Wing. There were 2 key cards in that deck. They popped up in my shop relatively early. I bought them, and then there were other cards that I saw that I wanted, like Arrow and Death, which are very good cards. I passed on them because I only have about 18 cards left in pool 3. I'm probably going to get them within the next 6 weeks. So I would say get a couple pool 3s to get yourself stated, and then try to pull it back. I think at the end of the day, even though cards are going to fall down from pool 5 to 4 to 3, there's probably going to be one that's going to be really appealing to you that you're going to want to get, whether it's Galactus or Thanos, or some of the new ones that they're releasing. So it's really tricky, but I don't think anyone truly knows because they haven't talked about how quickly things are going to fall down. Now, as for the rest of the shop,
right now.
as for the rest of the shop, variants, fast upgrades, and credits, don't buy any of those. Don't ever buy credits for gold. You can get them if you're going to spend your gold to try and get credits. Re-roll your quests, or get the bundles that we had on our screen. Now, I'll just say this before we move on from the economy conversation, which I realize went on a little bit long, but I think it's really interesting because it's really the area that I think maybe warrants the most amelioration. The game itself, no real complaints. A lot of people probably would think, well, they're going to go complain about Leech and Leader and the other OP cards. I actually think the game itself, the balance is pretty good. It's not to say that there can't be little adjustments made, but I think this is the focus of our ire. And I have a chart up on the screen right now that was published earlier today by Marvel Snap Zone, one of the best websites out there that publish a tier list, strategy articles, and other interesting news items for the game. It's probably the best non-video or stream resource out there. They published this graph, like which bundles should you get, and they basically scored them. The fact that a matrix like this even needs to exist underscores the problem for me, because while I have a pretty good idea of, what one should probably get or not get, and then I can get something against my better judgment, most people are just going to be overwhelmed, and if they buy the wrong thing, then they're going to feel like they made a mistake, and frankly, we saw this happen in Hearthstone. It just becomes so overwhelming that even if you wanted to buy something, you don't know what to buy. You're just gonna buy nothing, and that's I think
Choice paralysis.
Well,
yeah.
And the price point on these is so high
Mhm.
that like you can't afford to make a mistake. When if I want this Cyber Holiday bundle, it costs $107. Like that's an investment. And so I mean I passed on it, right? But like it looks cool. Oh gosh, the Apocalypse art was awesome, and all the credits and things. But like the chart is handy.
Is it 107 though? Because it's under. Isn't 8K 100? Maybe they're calculating.
I think that a lot of the guys on there are not in the U.S. For me, it was over $100 because of the Canadian piece, right? Like the Starlet, the line in the sand is $20 and it's 27 for me. So maybe that's an error. I think it was like about $100 US
Yeah,
if you converted
so you can
it.
yeah. If
But
it,
still,
I
it's
guess,
$100. Like I mean,
Oh yeah, no, it's not cheap by any means.
Yeah.
I was just curious where the 7 came from, because it could also be they could be using the value of gold. So if you buy the biggest thing for $100, it's 8,000. But maybe you didn't buy that. Maybe you bought like $20 a while
Right.
ago, and
You're
then it
topping
might
it
cost.
off.
So that could be it. That could be it too. But yeah, you know what's funny though about this, and like the framing you gave it, it's like it's confusing, right? Like how do I know which is the best thing for me? But the funny thing about this is I think it's almost one of those things that it's like we're viewing it like that is a bug when in actuality I think that's just kind of a feature for them. Like and it is just a thing in mobile games. Like there's a reason we have more than one currency. And mobile games do this all the time. It's just a thing of it becomes way easier to disassociate, and that's why Hearthstone added rune stones, right?
Yeah.
Like it becomes a lot easier to spend money in the game when you're viewing it as these broad bucks, the gold. Like because even though that has a real money value, your brain doesn't always like make the same thoughts about that because oh, you've already paid that money. That money is it's spent. It's just here. Now you can't pull it out. It's not a bank. So like you're gonna spend it there. But there's a reason we have credits, boosters, gold. Like there's so many things,
It
and
obfuscates.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's by design, and that's not a slight against the people making the game. That's just like a smart mobile game design. Like love it, hate it,
I
any way you feel about it. It just kind of is like at least for making money. I think it is. It's
So
smart
when
design.
when did Snap come out? Like when did it launch?
I think like October 12th. It was right around the
Okay.
Mercenaries
So
anniversary. I
I
think.
didn't pick it up right away. I got in about a week or two after, so late October. So last night I was on a Discord with a couple of those IRL friends that play casually. They looked at my Steam profile and
Mhm.
were floored how many game hours I
Yeah.
had in Snap. 244 as of right now, and admittedly,
384 here.
I think that maybe I left the client on once or twice when I went to bed. So fine, take 20 hours off that. It's still over 200 hours. So I mean,
It's a
the
lot.
dollar
Yeah.
per gaming ratio. I mean, you could say I'm rationalizing here, and maybe to some extent I am, but like
How a
I
lot of people break it down though, right? Like that's how I break down a lot of stuff with like you're doing anything that is costing you money. Now Snap doesn't have to cost you money, but if you're invested in paying the game, like you go out and you see a movie and it's 15 or $20 and you get what like 2 hours of entertainment. It's one thing that no matter what part of like gaming you're into, gaming's always been a pretty good cost per value, at least a good amount of games are. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have almost 400 hours on the Steam client and a bunch more on like mobile and stuff. So
yeah.
if I broke that down into what I've put into the game, like it ends up being pretty cost effective for me. And that's not even I'm not paying that money because I feel like I need to pay that money to play the game. I'd
Every
say like more than half of it is just making stuff look cool.
Yeah, that's true. So everything in moderation, but like I think that the TLDR is if you're going to spend money on one thing, Battle Pass, try to save your
Yeah, it's no
gold
contest.
for the bundles or the quest rerolls, and I think that that's a pretty good for now principle to go on. I will still say that they could do a lot to make it a little bit easier to navigate.
For
But,
sure.
I think that'll
I have a
come with time
question, by
as
the
the
way.
game matures. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so in terms of collecting stuff, so right, so this Hearts Wild set came out I don't know, a couple weeks ago or whatever, right? The
Yeah,
Rogue and
the
Gambit.
Rogue and Gambit one. Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember seeing it, right? And it was like, oh, cool, throwback 90s X-Men cartoon. And it was like $40 or something. I was like, oh
Yep.
my gosh, you joking me? Like $40 for two
I think it was
alternates?
30 US. I'm pretty sure. And there was an error on Steam where it was available for 20 for a bit.
I got it for the reduced price.
Oh,
Yeah, some people
wow.
did. I
I
was
did. I
asleep.
got it. I was working and I saw the tweet and I was like, I'm gonna get it before they lower the price. I learned my lesson with
Yeah,
Hearthstone that when
right.
something is wrong in your favor, they're gonna come correct as soon
You
as they
Oh yeah,
can. So
every
yeah.
time.
Anyway,
Okay,
so
so
so is the question.
here's my question, right? So at the time I have Rogue now, but I still don't have Gambit. So
Mhm.
if I don't have these cards and I get this bundle,
Uh huh.
I now have the cards. Yeah.
Well,
So
okay, so
you
they
can
took a
play with them.
they took a page out of the Mercenaries playbook. So I
Yeah,
didn't
right.
have Gambit. I really wanted
Right.
Gambit. So when I bought the Hearts Wild thing, I didn't have Gambit. So now I have Gambit with that variant only.
So you don't get the base
You don't get
skin.
the base, and
No,
you'll still pull the base out of the
at
chest when
some
its
point.
time comes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
That's what I wanted to
you
know.
can use it right away. And ironically, you can't even use the base skin. You can only use the one that you have, but you can use it right away. So that's why after the which one was it? I don't remember the name of it, but the one with the Invisible Woman, Mr. Fantastic, and Doctor Doom. There were tons of
Hmm.
Doctor Dooms on the ladder after that because all of a sudden it was,
Oh, everyone had the
accessible
new
in a
skin.
in a
Yeah.
real
Yeah,
way. Yeah.
yeah. It's funny because
I
you can
see.
break through the pool system a bit. Because in the early stages, they keep you in your pool. So if you only have the pool one cards, you
Yeah.
only run into other people with that same in pool two. Now that can change a little bit if you start winning a whole ton and you're near the break point. You can start seeing people with other stuff. That's a change they made, but generally you're mostly running into people who have the same stuff in the beginning. That kind of escalates in pool three, but it is kind of funny because assuming that everybody sees these, you could acquire some of these very powerful cards much earlier than you're supposed to have
And some
access
of
to
the
this.
ones
Like,
they're including in here are no joke. Like Starlit Connection's going to be really interesting because that's
oh
when
yeah,
Sarah's going to become
Sarah.
available to everyone. Although admittedly, I think Sarah is less of like it's more of an enabler than like a closer at this point. But yeah, I think that we'll start seeing possibly more Sarah. Although frankly, for where you are in kind of your collection level and on ladder, I think you're already seeing that
Yeah,
hit
there's
saturation, but
yeah, it probably won't make a difference at the high end, but it might change things a bit on the lower end. It's especially so it's nice if you just want to play with the card and you like the skin, that you can just be like, all right, well, I have this card now, so I can use it right away. Most of these have had, I guess all of them have had credits bundled in now. The whole reason we have this chart, and I think the big value of this chart here is they break down the gold value essentially compared to if you were just getting gold regularly. And that's why you can see their numbers at the bottom. The total value, the welcome value was like 8.3 because that's, they're trying to get you that first bite because of the whole if you spend money once on the game, you're probably more likely to spend money again on the game.
yep.
But if we
Guilty.
look at the other values, the only two bundles that are above 2 here are the Cyber Holiday one, so the Apocalypse one, and the Winter Wonderland, so the Sunspot one.
The
All
ones
the
that
other
sold for
ones,
gold.
yeah, all the other ones, or no, just across all the bundles. Like the paid bundles don't have great credit value.
No.
Some aren't terrible. Like you can see the Starlight Connections at like 1.5. But clearly the best values in these the more expensive bundles here, and that's really kind of. And then the other thing is that's not even pricing in. Maybe the progress value prices this in. I'm not sure, but the tokens, because the tokens, that's what you want to be saving for, because those
Yeah.
tokens end up being very valuable. Whether that's filling out your pool three collection so you can get a deck you really like sooner, or whether that's you're saving them when you finish the pool three because you will just naturally progress and finish it by playing the game for long enough, then those tokens become really valuable because you aren't getting pool four and pool five drops anywhere close to how quickly you were getting the pool three drops. I think what pool four is, I think 10 times more rare than pool three, and
Yep.
then and that has its own little pity timer system and whatnot. And then pool five is 10 times more rare than that, and that doesn't even have a pity timer.
Except for
Now,
you. You somehow
yeah,
managed to evade
streamer
that,
luck.
but yeah, streamer luck.
Yeah,
Well, I
I've
mean,
I've been really lucky with opening them, so it's like, and I always try and make a point of that when I'm like talking about, because like I want to be clear to people, the system has not been unkind to me, but just seeing how it exists and seeing what it's done to other people, like you're eventually going to be on the other end of that stick. Like
yeah,
odds can't, you
your
can't
time will
keep
come.
coming up, winning time and time again. Like, it doesn't make any sense. I've seen people go literally 2,000 collection levels, which is absurd, by the way. That's like so much progress. That's a ton of time, ton of money. And then they get maybe one card in that whole time. I've done, let's see, when they did the
That's
patch,
brutal.
I was at 3,000. Because you got a bonus at 3,000 when the patch hit for some more tokens. And now I'm at 4, like a little bit over 4, I think. I can double check. But I've basically gone up like 1,100, maybe 1,200 collection levels, which is a lot. And I finished
What are you
pool
at, Blue?
3 and all that. And it's crazy. Oh no, I'm at 4,500. So 4,500. I guess the bundles help boost me up a little bit more than I thought. But the like I've gotten 3 cards in that time, but I am exceptionally lucky to have gotten 3 of those pool 5 cards. Like some people I know have gone that 1,500 levels, the same amount I did, and not seen one.
Yep.
And that's crazy.
Nate and I are still at pool 5-0.
I'm at like 1,700 right now.
Yeah,
Like, in
that I
terms of
just
collection
cracked.
level, something like that.
They can show
recently
up,
cracked
but
2,000. Yeah.
it's just rare. And now, technically, if you think about it, the odds for you guys are technically higher than the beta people to an extent, because when we were progressing through our pool 3 collection, there was no chance of pulling a pool 4 or pool 5. So you'll technically have more pulls at it, because we essentially just wasted those pulls on
But they're so
whatever was
low
in
that
them.
I think it's almost
But it's pretty
statistically
negligible. Yeah,
insignificant.
it's not it doesn't make a huge difference. It's more just like a nice bonus that you might high roll and get one before you're usually seeing too many of those cards, and then that's a cool feeling. But like it's I think they're gonna have to do something with the rarity, because to me it's just they found a more palatable way to repackage one of the bad aspects of the Nexus event stuff I talked about earlier. Now, is it anywhere near as bad as what it originally was? No. This isn't really even like a pay to win thing, because like we said, you can't
pay
just
and
like
win. You can pay and
like,
lose.
like,
You
it
pay to
doesn't-
lose.
yeah, like you're really not going to. It's not like you can just swipe the card and get it. So it's not even like a pure like pay to win thing that I think is a problem. I think it's just like what is the one thing you as a card game player want to do when a new card comes out? You probably
it.
want to play with the card. Like
That is the
it's
concept.
really simple. And in every other card game, the whole cycle about it is they hype up a new card so they can sell you the new card so you can play with the new card, and then rinse and repeat. But Snap was so different with that, because yeah, they're doing that with like the battle pass and the new card that way. But
But like,
they're releasing these new cards monthly, and like nobody like can
I'll
keep
tell
up
you
with
what,
it,
man.
and they don't want you to keep up with it. It's just like people are like, we want the cards. Like, I just want to play the game.
everybody got all hyped up because they released these. Hey, there's 15 new cards or however many there were.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah, they
like,
did a bunch at once.
and
Yeah.
and then now we can't use any of them. Like, I don't even know what half of them do, because I'm
Yeah.
not gonna see them anytime soon.
It's
like,
and it's weird as a person creating content, because there's a weird balance to this, because on one hand people want to see the new shiny thing, so it almost, this is another kind of parallel that reminds me of Mercenaries. Like, I would grind really hard to play with a new character in PvP before the vast majority of people have put in the time to do that. So when I put it up, there weren't many people who had gameplay with Sylvanas or whatever character it was, right? And there's actually like a small lucrative element to that, because like they don't have the luxury of choice. Like, if they want to see it, they're clicking your thing. But then there's a negative side that Snap introduces here, and it's, how do you get people excited about this card? Or it's even worse, where if they are excited about the card, and then the game's just like, nah, like you can't have this. Like,
right,
check
so-
back in like 6 months.
here's an example, right? Everyone's talking about, oh, Bast is really cool.
Yeah.
And then I start seeing these like people making videos. Oh, here's a deck with Bast in it, and I know, okay, I've got all the cards except this card and it's the cool new one, and I ain't getting it anytime soon. I'm not even gonna watch the video because I can't make the
Yeah.
deck, and so why like I like
Yeah, like, so
I'm not
Binks
gonna check out
pulled
the.
Darkhawk, which is one of the new Pool 5 cards, and one that I think would be of interest to me. I haven't watched his YouTube yet because I'm never gonna get Darkhawk or play with it. Like, why would I? Well, I'll watch it when I get it. You know, like
Yeah.
it's one thing if I'm watching the stream and I'm kind of watching it live, but to go seek it out, I'm not gonna seek things out
You can't
that
play,
are
right?
inaccessible. I wonder how
'Cause you
much
can't
of an
use that
effect that
information,
has.
right?
Yeah.
Like you can't like, and I feel that too because like I know for me, one of the cards I've been having the most fun with has been Thanos unexpectedly because I opened that one. I didn't buy it. I just opened it randomly. I was like, all right, this card's pretty cool. It does something really unique with the stones and whatnot, and it's not really that great of a win condition on its own, but it turns out that the stones are strong enough to kind of carry the deck, and it makes for such an interesting style of gameplay that is hard to it's just not common in Snap because Snap is a small deck game. You have 12 cards. Well, Thanos shuffles another 6 in your deck and gives you some card cycling. And that's pretty cool because in Snap, you don't normally get to do that. You're not really. There are like, what, like one or two cards that say draw a card in the game or something. Like, there's. Because the decks are so small, they limit card draw very heavily. And so it's really interesting to have this deck that kind of like cycles through, and it's super fun is the point. And I know Binks can relate to this because he said it the other day on stream, and I noticed the same thing. The Thanos videos always do worse than like even other Pool 5 cards, but just in general. Like, I don't know if it's because people can't get it, they're not interested in the card. I don't know what the whole reasoning is with it, but I've seen it, and it's across all sizes. Like Binks has
I
a huge following now, and he was saying the same thing. Like comparatively, it just it doesn't do as well,
I suspect
and
it probably
weird.
brings people into the streams, but probably people who are seeking out like specific things. Because usually, I don't know, like I'm not maybe the typical YouTube user, but I find myself in YouTube when I'm looking for something very
Yeah,
specific. So
Yeah.
I
yeah,
think
same.
for like a someone that's just kind of like, oh, I want to watch someone play some cool games and interact with chat. Like I think, yeah, seeing Thanos, seeing Darkhawk, seeing those things,
Oh
really
yeah.
cool. But like if I want to like, what's the nutty Darkhawk list? I don't have the cards. I'm not going to be searching it out. I'm not going to find my way to YouTube. I would imagine that's probably something that's well,
I think
not
it
you
definitely
zombies
plays
because
into
you have
it.
all the cards, but for a streamer that doesn't, well, it's not even true. You
No, I
have
don't.
you have
Yeah,
three, you've three, and that's like considered very lucky. But for what?
yeah,
There's presently how many cards in pool five?
yeah. Because we
Two,
just got
four,
two new
six.
ones.
So you have half, which is considered lucky.
Is it 6? I think we're at 10 now.
Or
I
we're at
think
10. Maybe I'm just
so. We
looking.
got Thanos, Galactus, Valkyrie, Bast,
Oh
the
yeah,
two new ones.
two new ones. Yeah, that's 8.
Null, 9,
Yeah.
and am I forgetting one? Did another one really? No,
So
Null and the
you
other
have a
two.
third or less. My mistake.
Well, I also bought some, so I do have more than half of them.
I
But
didn't update my collection chart there, but yeah, it's
the whole point is like it's very atypical, especially like I'm not someone who's spending a lot of money on the game. I will buy like the bundles that I like, but I'm not. I spent a bit of money progressing my collection so I can make more content faster in Pool 3, but I don't feel like their value proposition in terms of like how you collect cards right now. I don't see a value in spending money to speed that up because it's such a slow process and the cost is high. So I'm really just buying, I'm more so buying the bundles because I really like the cosmetics and I really want the tokens because those are actual progress. Whereas at after you finish pool 3, credits really aren't necessarily bringing you much progress. Like
mm,
you will get the pool 4 cards occasionally, but even those are pretty spaced out, and the pool 5 cards are like I don't know, someone can probably do the math, but like I felt like I needed to buy a lottery ticket when I got that second Pool 5 card within like 100 collection levels when it's supposed to be one out of like 400 boxes or something. Like, I don't even know if I've opened 400 boxes in my time playing the game. I'd have to do the math. It's just it's weird that they've settled on, and like I said before, it feels to me like they found a way to repackage this system and have it be a bit more palatable. But I think people are going to not take as kindly to it when the initial high is worn off from the free tokens that we got with the system, and especially as people stop getting cards regularly when they finish Pool 3. Now, maybe they speed it along enough to where by the time when launch players finish Pool 3, the cards will start rotating down, and that could fix a lot of the issues. Like, I think a big problem with it is just like we just don't know right now, and I'm hoping that we learn that sooner rather than later into the new year, because I think that's going to determine just how progression works for the game in a very significant way, and it definitely impacts not only players but like it makes things very challenging as a content creator, because like you have to kind of pick and choose. Like we were talking before, Binks got the Darkhawk, and he's made some dope videos with that card, and it's done really well for him too, because like not that many people have the card, so there are only so many people putting up content with the card. But what's going to happen when like the 3 weeks from now, 2 weeks from now, a week from now, however long, I guess it's not till the new year, whatever, when the next batch starts coming, what if there's a card that really speaks to him and he wants to try out, but he just used his tokens last month? And even if you put a bunch of money into the game, like getting 6,000 tokens, even you get them more when you finish Pool 3, because you can get these 400 drops, but like it doesn't come quickly. Like it's very.
They gotta reduce the price. If they're gonna
think so too.
The amount of tokens that you get that low, they gotta reduce the price.
You gotta change the variable, whether it's giving more tokens or reducing the price, whatever it is. It just feels too bottlenecked.
Yeah, I feel like 1,000 is palatable, but 6,000 for one card is
so much.
3,000 is a lot for the Pool 4 one too.
3,000 is already a lot.
Yeah. All right, well, guys, so I think we've kind of beat this horse to death, although I think that there's a lot to say on it. I don't actually think we're going to have time to get to all of our topics, which maybe portends to us doing this again, because clearly we have a lot to say. But before we do wrap up, I did want to just kind of shift the conversation to something that has really amused me throughout my time with Snap, which is the old saying that beauty is in the eye of the beholder is really true. And this is probably demonstrated through the pixel variants that I have here on screen. So for those that are unaware, there are a lot of different skins called variants, and they have different collections for artists or different styles. Like they have anime styles, they have chibis, and they have pixel art. And the pixel art are some of the most common ones, and they are some of the most polarizing. Some people hate them, and some people love them. Now, I'm in the middle. I really like some of them. I really dislike others. Like, for example, Zombies, when you pulled Hawkeye, we were both kind of like, that's a really bad one. But one of my most wanted variants is a pixel variant for Hellcow. I think that's just the best variant. I just love that Hellcow pixel variant. It's so good. Funny. So what you're looking at on the screen here is three rows of our pixel variants. So mine are on top, Zombies are in the middle, and Nate's are on the bottom. And there are some real duds in here, but I think there's some real great ones. The biggest dud, I think, being Hawkeye. Pixel Cosmo is so LOL. See, I like Pixel Cosmo.
Careful, Binks.
I like Pixel Cosmo, although
he stands the Pixel Cosmo.
Yeah.
Let me tell you,
she's fine.
So there's definitely, they're polarized, right? I have a love of pixel art because I used to, whatever. I love it.
Because we're old.
But
that's how you can say it,
basically. because back in my day we just called it art.
Back in my day, that's what all the video games looked like.
It's true.
Hey, this was the good video games looked like this. Not
Yeah.
even the.
Yeah.
But my one complaint about these is that the ones that generate tokens, so your Squirrel Girl, Doctor Doom, Mr. Sinister, the tokens that they generate are the original art,
Yeah.
and I hate that because like if I really wanted to make this is one of the few variants that they have basically like the entire set, like they just have them all or most of them. And
Yeah, they have a lot for these. The pixels and the chibis, I think, are the two biggest ones.
There are
with
way
that
more
one,
pixels
a
than
million for
chibis,
'em.
though.
Are there?
I think so.
Yes,
Just by
almost
virtue of how many
double.
I've pulled.
Maybe Binks knows. He's a chibi collector. How many chibis
It's,
are there in the game?
If you look on the Marvel Snap Zone website, they break it down. You can view
Oh yeah,
the
you can
variants
sort by that, huh? They do a great job, by the way.
They're awesome. So if you
they're
go to
so
the
good.
variants page, you can look at them by the style. And the chibis had about half of the number.
Wow,
that
I didn't
the
realize they had
pixels
that
did.
many pixels.
Yeah, it's a lot
Yeah,
of
dude.
pixels.
It is. And so my big complaint is that like, hey, if I want to do this, like, cool, but it throws off my my mojo when I have
You don't get the
Yeah.
pixel token, right? Like
Yeah.
it breaks the sense of yeah. You know it's funny. So they have talked about this because people asked. Wow, a bunch of these have to be not released because I have never seen so many of these. Like some of the variants they like, especially on the website, you can
They're
find
data mined.
they have unreleased ones because
Right.
like this is crazy. There's so many of these, and they have cleaned up some of them. Like there were a few they've made some like subtle cleanup changes. Like I know they cleaned up Devil Dinosaur a bit because that one was really bad as a pixel. But it's neat that like and it becomes a thing of and this feeds into the idea of the whole your collection's unique and the variants make that kind of a thing. But they did say they want to do unique art for tokens based on whatever variant it is.
they should. They totally should.
So I think they are going to do that, but I don't think it's in the near future. It seems like one of those things where like and Blue and I talked about this a bit like the I think Snap even though we're at like full release like I think we're going to see this game change and grow a lot over this next year. Like it really feels like the beginning. It kind of reminds me of launch Hearthstone in that sense where like Hearthstone was a really simple game when it came out and if we look at Hearthstone now compared to 2014 Hearthstone and like what the game had and what was available, like it's changed pretty significantly. And obviously that's a longer period of time, but even in that first year, the game changed pretty significantly. And I think we're going to see a similar thing here. Like they've made it clear they want the game to last for a very long time. And I think we're going to see it just kind of like change and improve. And especially as they add stuff like new modes. Like we're gonna be getting this battle mode hopefully next month, within the next 2 months.
Oh, that'd be really
Is what
cool
they
to be able to like add friends.
Yeah, so it's gonna be friend battle, and it sounds like a great thing. And it's gonna enable the community to do tournaments, and it's gonna be a great thing. Like if there's anyone who knows like the power of like community run tournaments, I would like to think that I know a little bit about that as the person who ran like 99% of the mercenaries tournaments for that
Right.
game. Like it's amazing, and that was a smaller game with a smaller community, but like it was so fun doing these competitive style events that were just it was different. It's like any card game where just that competitive sense is different. I know I would love to see some kind of draft system in this game eventually that just circumvents the collecting entirely. Now, I don't know how that would work, but I loved draft and I'm not even like a drafter in Magic or stuff, but the mercenaries draft made me fall in love with the idea of the format. And I think it'd be really neat to see in a game like this, like uh, whether it's you just have a traditional drafting interface, or if it's something you can do like externally. So like you and friends draft from a pool of cards. Like what if you only draft from pool 1 and 2, and when someone picks a card, the other person can't pick it. You can do a lot of interesting things once you open up just being able to direct challenge people and friends. So I'm really excited for that kind of stuff, and it's apparently not far off. It sounds like it might be coming next month, but definitely within the next 2 months. It sounds like they're unsure, but if it comes in January, that'd be super sweet.
That'd be cool.
There's definitely a lot to look forward to, not only on them improving the economy piece, hopefully, different game modes, a better PC client.
Just the game in general, yeah. Like I really think we are at the kind of beginning of this, and I've seen it improve a lot in the beta, but I really think now that it's fully released, now that they have all these people interested, playing, funding, presumably the game as well, I really think we're going to see it kind of grow and prosper over time. Now, how long is that going to take? Who knows? But they've been doing a pretty decent job so far, and it is a relatively smaller team, to my understanding. Like it's not like they have like a Hearthstone sized team working on this game. It seems really quite a bit smaller because it's their first game, they're a startup, but they've been doing a really good job with it.
Yeah, I agree. It's a lot of fun. I mean, it is quite an accomplishment to have a game that's been out for 2-3 months. I mean, if not counting the beta, get Game of the Year, like mobile Game of the Year. Wow. And so, and I think it was well earned. I will say that.
Yeah,
it's very fun. I really enjoy it. I'm being a Marvel kind of fanboy aficionado, whatever, is like adds to that a little bit. I know
cool
most of these
thing-
characters and some I don't, but like it's accessible even if you don't, which is great.
Yeah, so like I think one of the cool things I think they've nailed about this game is it's appealing to people who are interested in the IP, but it's also appealing purely off of the gameplay. And then you get an interesting mix here where the IP might draw in people who aren't normally card game people. And I think this game does a fantastic job of like introducing someone to a card game for the first time in terms of gameplay. And it also does something I don't think any other card game has done super duper well, where even if you don't have the meta deck or the most powerful cards, you can kind of still win with some pretty suboptimal stuff. Now, that changes over time, right? But like compare it to Hearthstone, like if you're playing like a tier 4 or tier 5 or that like super super janky deck, you're really not winning with it very very much. Like but you're savoring that win when you do. I would make the argument that in Snap it is more, you can have more success with like, because I play a bunch of weird off meta shit, and I find I have more success with it than I do in other games because of the locations and how that changes the gameplay. Because it's not just, oh, my opponent's playing Deathwave and I'm playing this deck, so I know it's going to play out this way most likely. The locations changing that gameplay each time allows some of these decks that are normally not super great on their own to kind of thrive where other decks might not. And it's not going to mean you're going to dominate the ladder with your homebrew meme deck, but I think there's just more room to breathe there.
Well, I'll say this. If we do a second part to this over the Christmas break, I think decks that we're playing, the meta, and kind of how the game shapes up would be generally the topics that I'd like to talk about since we didn't get to it.
I'd like to hear Zombies talk about the split system as well, and I don't think we have time.
Oh
for it
yeah,
tonight,
we
but, like,
need to talk about that as well.
There's a lot to talk
Yeah.
about, so we'll have to run it back.
But I
sometime.
think
I
that
love talking about the game.
being respectful to your commitments, technically you're 1 minute after midnight Eastern time, although it's only 9 o'clock here on the West Coast. But
Yeah, it's fine.
we've been going at it now for closing in on an hour 45. So why don't we do this? We can cap it here. And if we're so inclined, maybe before New Year's, if we find some time, we can kind of do a round 2 and talk specifically about splits, the meta, and just general gameplay. I think that would be really, really fun.
Yeah,
You
it's
know
just
what,
so
this
hard
was
to cover it
something-
all. Like there's so much, especially
So much.
talking to, if you're trying to make people understand it who maybe aren't super invested into the game or are invested but more on like a casual level, because I was that way for a while. Like I was just logging in, doing my daily and progressing my pool 3 collection because I didn't have any deck that I really loved, and I was waiting for cards, and I didn't have the token shop at the time. That wasn't a thing in the beta, so I was just kind of like doing that. And so I feel like I've gotten the perspective of a casual player, at least like more casual, not fully casual. But then I also have the perspective of someone who's streamed it for like 130 hours in the past month.
Yeah.
Which is totally different. And it's so cool that like a game has the depth to where both of those ways of playing can be enjoyable. Like I find it's often hard to strike a good balance for being appealing to people who only play once or twice a day versus someone who's going to play for hours a day. Because eventually, like I feel like you're bound to get bored of it. But as someone who's put in like a crazy amount of time into the game, I don't log on to the game and feel like, all right, here we go again. Like the experience is different every time, and it makes me think. And I that's just like the big thing. Like because of the locations making it different, and because they're constantly being added to the game and changing the gameplay and changing how strategies work, like that's the big win for me. Like the snap mechanic's cool too. And we could probably spend a whole thing talking
Oh dear,
about
we
that.
didn't even talk about that.
I
My
know.
goodness. Well, I'll have to definitely put. Maybe what we can do is we can edit the two together or something, and I'll add to the list of conversation topics because we only got through half, and now I'm realizing, crap, we only got through half. But there's so many more things that we could have talked about that we didn't get to. It's kind of it's interesting when you lay it all out there, how much there is to unpack, because it's
kind of
significant.
crazy that this was something that was thrown together like half an hour before we
Yep.
recorded it on a whim.
Are you talking about? I spent all day working on this, Nate. I'm kidding. I spent all of 20 minutes.
I love the logo you came up with. But this is surprising. You know, it's a lot of fun. There's a lot to talk about. I'm always happy to chat more about this stuff. So if this is something that you all enjoy, and if anyone else is interested in listening to us go on about it, I'm always down for more. But anyways, yeah, this was a lot of fun. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, no, I'm glad. It's fun. It's fun talking about the game. I think that's the big thing. So like, I thought about doing Snap content in the beta, and I put out like one little video or something, and I was just like, this gameplay is really amazing, but like the audience wasn't really there yet, and it kind of like it reminded me what I felt about like Mercenaries in the beginning was like, there's something really great here, but like the audience isn't really there for it yet. Now, obviously, those two games went in very different directions in terms of the success and whatnot. But I think the point is, like, when the game came out, my interest in it shot up a ton, even as someone who could play it before, because now I had other people to talk about, like, the game with, whereas before that was kind of limited. You talk about
people weren't interested that, like, if you try to get in the beta and then you didn't get the invite and then you felt snubbed, and it was like, I don't want to watch someone play this that I can't get into it and I can't play it. And like, I don't know. A big shout out to Binks, who also is an amazing content creator, and we were talking about this a little bit before the show started, but initially Sheep and Binks and myself had talked about making a show, and then it fell through because I ended up moving from Oregon to California, got a new job. Sheep found out he was having a baby, and also moved from Texas to Colorado, and it was just everything kind of fell through. But there's so much to talk about, and it's so much fun. And so when Blue reached out, was like, "Wait, you talk about this game that I like? Yeah, okay, let's do that."
Yeah, no, it's great. It's always a fun time, and it's crazy how fast the time goes when doing it.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. Well, they say time flies when you're having fun. So let's tentatively do another one to get through the rest of our conversation points, and who knows, maybe we can invite a couple of other friendly faces on as well if they're so inclined to join us. So I don't know when, but I think a lot of us are on break, or at least Nate and I are on break for the next week. So I'm sure sometime next week we'll be able to find an evening where we can
that'd be fun.
Make it happen, so we can kind of get through the rest of our agenda. I didn't want to. I felt like I already squashed the conversation so much tonight, but I really didn't want to. So I kind of wanted to really allow us to go down that rabbit hole, because it is It is really fascinating. So we're gonna pause it. We're gonna pause for there. I know I sold this as a one-time thing, but we're gonna say it's a series of one-time events. No commitments, but I think that we didn't even get through half of what we wanted to talk about. And I think that there's so much to discuss. So we'll pause there, and maybe we'll give a little bit more notice if we can arrange it. If not, we'll just do a pop-up thing again. One question before we go. I don't have the switchboard, but the unrelated advice. So, Nate, this is a family-friendly show. And Zombies dropped a few F-bombs tonight. It's okay. So in the Born to Be Wild podcast, we McGurgle them, right? The Murloc to bleep it out. So what are you gonna bleep it out with here? I have a suggestion.
Well, I think what I'm gonna do is so it'll say what the oh snap.
Oh, that's a good one. You know what I was gonna suggest the card upgrades, right? Like frame break. But snap would be even better because it's short. That's good. I like that.
Yeah, that is pretty funny.
Yeah. So I tried to note the time. I was around the 40-minute mark. Couple F-bombs. You have to don't worry about it.
They were like back to back, so it'll be easy to.
Do you bleep out the F bombs? Do you bleep out the S bombs as well? There was one S bomb. I took note of it as well.
Typically yes.
All right, so there were 3. I counted them. So if you get 3 of them, you'll get them, or you can just label it adult or whatever. But just curious about that. Don't no worries on.
I just got that. No big deal. You got that podcasting or what's the word? You got the
I am just I don't have the timestamp. I didn't note it down. It was around the 40-minute mark, and then I think around 50. But no, the reason why I picked up on it is because when I'm on Born to Be Wild, I have to make such a conscious effort to try and keep it PG-13 because I especially when I get animated, I tend to curse also and
so typically when I'm the one running the show, what I'll do is I'll jot down the times so that I can bleep. Like it's fine for the live show, but when we post it to the podcast platforms and you post it to YouTube, you have to mark whether there's bad language or whatever.
Oh, I know all about that. Yeah.
And so I'd rather say no, it's clean because it opens it up to a larger variety, and so then I have to go through and bleep, which is typically easy if you know the time. It's just
it's much easier if you know the time. Otherwise, you're watching.
Then you gotta listen to the whole thing over again.
Yeah, I can't imagine doing that. Like I stand by minimal podcast editing. I'm pretty sure, like with a very small exception, we did almost 40 or around 40 episodes or something, high 30s, something like that. And I think I can count on like one hand the amount of times I had to do more editing than just trimming the front and the back off of it. If I had to actually like go through and like, I would not have had the time to make a whole podcast show. It can be very intensive. So like noting that stuff down, that gets an A+ from my my editor homework. Like it's a very good habit.
The Taylor episode will go down in infamy as the I didn't think you edited it, right? You just were like, we're just gonna slap it R-rated and call it a night.
I actually put a disclaimer. I actually put a disclaimer in front of that show. If you check it out, like I have never done it before aside from that one, but it was so much. That
that's funny.
It'll take me 8 hours to edit this, and I'm not doing that. And like,
so you're good. You just had a couple, but I wanted to just point it out. It's not like the snap. I look forward to hearing that. All right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording.